Well, I trust you're having a good start to your Tuesday. It's good to be with you again. And I want to go to the prophet Isaiah, chapter 59. Here, the Lord is using him to deal with the people of Israel and their sins and going away from God. And of course, that's the propensity of all of us because of our flesh. And we read in verse 1 of chapter 59, "Behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy that it cannot hear." Here we see the tremendous truth of God's desire to bless us and forgive us if we come to him. The next verse says, "But it's your iniquities that have separated between you and God, your God, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear, for your hands are defiled." And he goes on to talk about their transgressions. Their sense of distance from God was not God's fault. It was their own unwillingness to get right, because the Lord's hand was not shortened that it wasn't ready to save. He is able to save. He has the power to do it, and of course Christ was going to come. He was able to meet every need of the nation of Israel, and yet it was their sins that caused them to think that God did not care. He said, "My ear is not heavy. It is not in a place where I cannot hear." Not only does God hear everything, but this is the idea of listening to the prayer and to the cry of his people so that he can respond to them. And so he's saying here, the problem is not my desire to meet your needs. The problem is you're not willing to get your heart right. If you'll just look to me, if you will just call on me, I will deliver you. I'm ready to do it. You know, we do need to get rid of Satan's lies. Satan loves us to think that God's there ready to hammer us, and God doesn't really care, and God is so hard. And all of those things are lies. That's exactly what he said to Eve in the garden when he questioned God that about, has God really said that? And then he goes on to say, the Lord knows that if you eat of that fruit, you'll be like him. What was he doing? He was impugning the character of God, that God did not want the best for Eve and for Adam. Well, it was a straight out lie. He's a deceiver. And my friends, anything that characterizes God as someone who is hard, that won't listen, that doesn't want to bless, that has punitive motives in what he does to believers, that is totally wrong. And so here he's making it very clear. He's ready to save. He is ready to listen. He is ready to meet the needs of every believer. You know, God just loves us, just like a father just wants to bless his children. I know when my children were growing up, and now as they're adults, and I have a number of grandchildren, I just can hardly help myself. I want to do something for them. I love to be with them. I want to bless them. That is just the nature of a father, of a grandfather. But we got that from the Lord. Blessed is the man. You find the Beatitudes. It's blessed are, blessed is. All of this shows the natural heart of God coming out of his perfect love, his perfect holiness to want to bless us. It is not God that pushes us off. It is our own hearts that push him off. He makes it very clear. Your iniquities have separated between you and your God. Your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. It's not his fault. It's your fault. You will not turn to him. You will not believe that he wants the best for you. Now here today, what kind of attitude do you have toward the Lord? Are you a little frustrated things aren't going well? You would never want to admit that you were bitter about God, but do you feel like maybe he hasn't done the best by you, and why do you allow this situation to happen? The minute you get into that kind of thinking, you're in trouble, because God is wanting the best for you. Don't be bitter against the very one that died on the cross for you. Don't blame him. What we have to do is take responsibility for our own lives. Now, we don't need to get down and introspective, but we just need to be honest and transparent. We're not right with God. That's why we don't see him in his character. We're not meeting with him. We're not in the Word. But when we take responsibility, all of a sudden our eyes are opened and we realize He is ready and willing to bless us right now. You don't have to go through penance. You don't have to go through a probation period. Even though there may be some consequences for your sin, you can have the blessing of God and the goodness of God displayed in your heart the moment you get right with Him and your conscience is freed. Oh, there's nothing like the blessing of God. So friends, today, remember, God's ready. He is ready to save. He is ready to listen. Don't blame Him. Open your heart and just let Him love you and bless you throughout this day.